Wait, what was that?
I said, never mind.
What did you say?
I said, I think my hair looks great.
And?
That's all.
And what?
That's all I said.
And he said, if anybody else thinks otherwise, they can suck it. That's what you said.
I wouldn't have said that to the general public.
Oh, okay. We're putting this in the bloopers. All right. I don't like the lighting. Can you come over here?
Well, the camera's not balanced either. It looks like shit.
Okay. Thanks, babe.
And anybody who thinks otherwise can suck it.
Okay.
Founded in 1958, the old Rhinebeck Aerodrome has been a destination for aircraft lovers of all kinds. This place is just as rare as the aircraft it hosts. When you first arrive here, the energy is magical, and the feeling doesn't go away. There's not many airports left in the world that truly feel alive. From June to October, air shows happen here weekly, every Saturday and Sunday. These fighter planes once waged a war 110 years ago, but here they play in the skies, unaffected by time. Here, they are surrounded by a legacy of children's dreams come true. I came here to share my love of barnstorming with the smiling faces of the Hudson Valley. I'm bringing you along with me as I uncover airplanes time is forgotten, but the good folks of Rhinebeck have not. Whether you've loved aviation all your life or you're new to this world, I can't wait to show you why history should be remembered, and in this case, flown.
All right, you guys. Well, today I'm coming at you. Me and Cole are here at the Rhinebeck Aerodrome.
We are.
Well, we made it all the way up to New York, and I've actually been up here for like 2 months now. If you've been following my social media, you know that I actually took a job ride hopping up here. I just haven't made a video yet. So I'm really excited about today's video. It actually was filmed for a different program called My Aviation Odyssey, which is a show that was started here, basically about the aerodrome that I'm producing and filming and everything. It's been really exciting. And you can find that show on Arrowverse, which is kind of like the Netflix of aviation. It's pretty cool. Yeah. They have other originals too, which my show is an original. They have other originals with different topics of aviation. So whether you come from it or it's something that you might be interested in, there's something there for you. So that link will be below. And this first episode is from that show. And it's actually about the airplane that we're standing in front of here, the 1929 New Standard. So this is the airplane that I'm gonna be ride hopping in all summer. I've already done a couple rides out of it. It is so different from the Waco. You can fit 4 people in the front, which you've ridden in front of both. Which do you prefer?
It's cool. It's a neat airplane.
It's cool. It's like a cavern up there. What's like the experience from your perspective of like a passenger being in the front of the Waco versus the New Standard?
For somebody who hasn't been in any biplane before, it'd be hard to speak for, but it's just huge up there. It's like,
it almost doesn't even feel like a biplane. Like, I remember the first time that I rode in the front of a New Standard, it was with Kelly Mahan, and we went up, and it was down in Texas, and we went up, and it was just like so much wind. It feels like a pickup truck. I mean, it's crazy. And flying it out of here is even crazier. Because if you've ever been to the aerodrome, or if you ever want to come, it's just a unique place to fly out of. Tall trees, short strip, bumpy strip. It's fun.
It's a hill.
Yeah, it's crazy. We should make an episode based like solely on how crazy it is to fly out of here. It's nuts.
That's a good idea.
Anyways, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode of My Aviation Odyssey, which is coming to you special for Flying Doodles, all my watchers and subscribers. And yeah, hope you enjoy.
Pictured above is one of the old Rhinebeck Aerodrome's original D-25 New Standard biplanes. Still in use today, the biplane is specifically used for ride hopping. My name is Emma, and I came all the way up from Texas to get a piece of the action. You might have noticed all of the sandbags in the front seat. The New Standard is capable of holding 4 passengers up front, and as such, there is no dual controls, so the first time you fly it, you're soloing it. They trust me with sandbags first over people, so as I get used to the airplane from my previous biplane experience, I gotta start out there. I guess it ain't all that bad though, because sandbags can't complain. We'll be taking a deep dive into the history of the New Standard this episode with Director of Maintenance at Old Rhinebeck, Mark Mondello. In addition to managing all of the maintenance projects around the aerodrome, Mark is also the fella who checked me out in the New Standard. New York is a far long away from Texas, and he doesn't know me from Jack, so for my first 2 weeks here at the aerodrome, he had to make sure I was worth my salt. I guess I did good enough because they cut me loose in the thing. Hold on to your caps as we dive on in.
So I'm standing here with Mark Mondello, and you are the chief mechanic. Is that your title here?
That's right. It's technically Director of Aircraft Maintenance because we wanted to use as many words as possible.
Yeah, gotcha. And yeah, I mean, I already knew that because I came here to fly rides in the airplane that we're standing in front of right now.
That's right. Yeah, you are our newest rides pilot in the New Standard D-25.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I'm having a blast, and it was great training with you. So thank you so much for the experience on that. And we're looking forward to a really cool summer. So tell me a little bit about this airplane.
Yeah, so the New Standard D-25 is a 5-seat open cockpit biplane. And it was designed to hop passenger rides way back in the 1920s. This one was built in 1929, so it's fast approaching its 100th birthday.
Now this airplane is one of, you said 3 here at the aerodrome, or one of 2?
So there's one of 2 that will fly, and then there's a third that's just sort of like a long-term in-storage parts airplane, so to speak.
How long has this one been in service?
So this one has been flying rides here since the 1980s. Before that, it was a crop duster out in Arizona for many years. And then before that, it was a rides hopper in like the New Jersey area.
It seems like crop dusting, a lot of these old New Standards kind of had a history in crop dusting.
Yes, pretty much all of them were used for crop dusting. The rides hopping business sort of dried up in the end of the 20s and into the 30s when the Great Depression hit. People didn't have money to spend on doing passenger rides. So these airplanes had to be put to work. And crop dusting was like a brand new industry, and they could carry a lot of weight. So it was a great way to use the airplanes and make money with them.
Well, and they were also used for another industry for a while.
That's right, yeah. During Prohibition in the 1920s, when alcohol was illegal across the entire United States, a lot of these New Standards found themselves as rum-running airplanes, smuggling alcohol across the Canadian border into the United States. Because you could fit like 1,000 pounds of alcohol up in the front cockpit, and that's a lot of booze.
Yeah.
And they would fly and they'd land in fields, right, in farmers' fields or in the middle of forests, wherever they could to evade the cops. And there was actually a service center at the Poughkeepsie Airport for New Standards, and it primarily just fixed rum-running airplanes and kept them flying. And when Prohibition ended and all of that stopped, that service center went out of business because there wasn't enough business anymore for it with all the rum-running airplanes gone elsewhere.
I think it was really interesting when you were telling me this story earlier when I first started here. You were also telling me that the Coast Guard actually got their hands on one.
That's right. There was a New Standard that was captured in a booze bust, whatever you want to call it. The cops captured the rum runners, and they had this airplane. They weren't sure what to do with it, so they gave it to the United States Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard actually painted it up in Coast Guard colors and operated it for a number of years.
That's super cool. Do you guys ever think you'll do one up in the Coast Guard paint scheme?
I would love to restore one into a Coast Guard paint scheme when it gets recovered, but it's a little hard to justify. Like, it's a rides airplane right now. It has rides on the bottom. Coast Guard, people might get a little confused.
A little confused about what's
it
going
would look
on.
really cool.
Well, so tell me a little bit about the performance. We talked about how much weight it can hold.
Right.
What are the specifics on like cruise speed? What does it handle like in the air? And I'm asking you this because I already know, but you're going to be able to give me a more professional answer.
Right. So the airplane is a large biplane. So it's got a lot of inertia because it's pretty heavy. All up it's like 3,000 something pound gross weight. So it's pretty big for a biplane. Not many biplanes that size, other than like an AN2 or something, which is giant. So it's got a lot of inertia. It's a little heavy on the controls, especially in the roll. It has a huge, almost 50-foot wingspan. And the ailerons are not that big, so it's a slow roll response. It flies around at about 80 miles an hour. Does pretty much everything in 80. We kind of climb at 80, cruise at 80, descend at 80.
Yeah.
It does stall like 45, which is a pretty slow stall speed for an airplane of this size, which is nice. And that's because it's got all that wing out there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's something I noticed too about the Standard is that it's got a huge wing.
Yes.
And so flight handling characteristics, you really notice that when it gets gusty.
Yes. Yeah, we like to say here it's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, Dr. Jekyll on the nice days, you're flying around, it's a real pleasure to fly. For an airplane designed in like 1926, it's got good flight characteristics. But when the wind kicks up, then Mr. Hyde comes out and it can be a real handful. You can find yourself going like stick all the way, then the other way, and just trying to keep everything moving forward in one direction. And you'll be doing this with the stick and the airplane's hardly moving, you know, so it does do some weird wind things.
Well, another interesting thing you were telling me too is let's say you had a mishap in the field.
Yeah.
This airplane was kind of designed for that. Tell me why.
Right. So Charles Day was the designer of the airplane. That's D-25, is like his 25th airplane design. And he knew this was going to be used by rides hoppers out of unimproved fields. You know, they've been landing in farmers' fields or on the edge of town, sometimes like on Main Street in a town. And if the airplane got damaged, they were worried that a welded steel fuselage, which was common in the day, most airplanes were welded steel Warren truss fuselages. They were worried that if one of those broke, it'd be really hard to find a welder, like in the middle of Oklahoma, right, in some little town. But pretty much anyone can drive a rivet or throw like a bolt or screw through a rivet hole. So the airplane's actually all aluminum angle pieces riveted and bolted together. And that makes it really easy to repair in the field in case you have a rough landing while you're hopping passengers. You'll only be out of service for maybe an hour or two instead of looking for a welder for days.
Yeah. So what engine, what power plant are we running up front on the new Standard?
Yeah, so we have a Wright Whirlwind. It's a 235 horsepower radial engine. It's a cool big old engine. Actually, this is technically a high-performance airplane, believe it or not. So you need a high-performance endorsement, and you get to like high-performance hours in it. So that's always kind of fun. But it's a big radial. It eats a lot of oil. We're always worried about hydraulic lock, which is a problem that you see with radials and inverted engines, where oil can end up in the combustion chamber and stop the engine from turning over. So as you learn, you have to turn the engine through to make sure that there's no oil in the cylinders. And there are some other things that you have to be aware of with radials as well, but it's a pretty good power plant. These actually came from the factory, the very first ones with Hisso engines, which are water-cooled V8s because they were war surplus and they were cheap. And then they very quickly put Wright Whirlwind J5 engines on them, which are Charles Lindbergh's engine from the Spirit of St. Louis. That would be its original power plant. And that's like 225 horsepower. Unfortunately, there are very few Wright J5 Whirlwinds left around. So we've put this slightly more modern R760 Wright Whirlwind on there. It's got 10 more horsepower, which is nice. And it's a little more robust than Lindbergh's engine would have been too.
Yeah. Well, and in talking about the Hydrolock too, one of the interesting features of this engine that you pointed out to me when I first started was you've got these little locks on the bottom cylinders that you kind of open, and that kind of helps prevent that to a certain degree. Yeah,
they're intake drains, and it's actually an STC mod, believe it or not. Yep, so it's all legal and good. And those drains allow you to drain any extra oil out of the cylinders when you're pre-flighting the airplane and pulling everything through.
Could you do that to any radial engine?
A lot of the bigger radials have those sorts of mods.
Yeah,
but
it's the first time I've seen it, but it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's like,
if you're going to drop a drain into it, you need some sort of approval, right? So yeah, there's actually an STC for these, which is pretty nice.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, we're about to go take it up flying. I'm going to take it around the patch and, you know, show it off. So thank you so much, Mark. And
absolutely. Happy to talk about the new Standards, one of my very favorite airplanes.
Oh yeah, it's been a blast.
I hope you enjoy these shots of the new Standard as much as I did taking them. In just a moment, we'll be wandering into another hangar, meeting up with my friend Dave King and his Waco INF.
All right, you guys. Well, today I am here with Dave King, in front of your beautiful Waco INF.
Yep, INF, 1930 INF, 125 horsepower Kenner engine. Brand new. I've had it maybe a week and a half or so.
Yeah, your brother
So,
Andrew, he's a ferry pilot. He brought
Brother
it in
Andrew,
here for
yep,
us.
just
for
like you, ferry pilot, and he's brought quite a few airplanes in here over the years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so how are you liking it so far? What's
So far, so good. It's a little bit bigger than the Moth. I think it's heavier than the Moth. 4 ailerons taken, then getting used to. And it's got short stacks on it too.
Yeah.
So I can do about 45 minutes for my ears, even with earplugs in. I have to land and give my ears a rest. So
well, what's your
that's new.
What's your fuel and oil capacity like?
The fuel, I'm probably burning 8 to 9 gallons an hour. I
Okay.
would think a Kenner, I believe, burns about that much. Once again, I've got 275 hours in the Tiger Moth I flew for 25 years, however long that's been. So that's taken, to go from the Tiger Moth, which is pretty docile, something a little more, you have to fly it a little more. The Tiger Moth, I got used to, you can do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
This, obviously, and I've got 9 hours on it so far. So it's going to take a little getting used to. It's just a different kind of airplane.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as controllability goes and handling on the ground and in the air, what is it like compared to the Tiger Moth?
It's very responsive on the ground and in the air. The 4 ailerons do make a difference. It's like the difference between a Tiger Moth and a Stomp. A Stomp has 4 ailerons. A UPF-7 and a Stearman.
Okay.
UPF has 4 ailerons. Stearman only has 2. So anytime you fly something with 4 ailerons, you find it's a little more controllable, a little more responsive. So that's nice. It's just a matter of getting used to it.
Yeah.
It's the Tiger Moth, like I said, I can fly in my sleep.
Yeah.
This I won't do yet. Keep my eyes
well,
open.
with something new, like my experience right now, I'm getting up current in the new standard, and that compared to the Waco IMF is like I could fly the Waco IMF like you're saying with my eyes
With
closed,
your
just
eyes
because I'm
closed.
like, it feels like when I sit in that thing, it feels like I'm home. And with the new standard, it's just so big.
It's so big.
It's huge.
Wings. It's a funny runway here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trees. You're not used to
Well,
all
so
that
let's
in
talk
Texas.
about that. How does this perform in Rhinebeck? Because, we all know that, and if you haven't heard already, Rhinebeck is kind of an interesting strip
It's got
to get
an
in.
interesting strip to get in and out. When I was a kid, the runway was half as wide as it is now. We had to expand it. Sometime in the 90s, I think, the FAA required a setback for takeoff and landing, so we had to expand the runway east-west a little bit. And it's still, at times, and maybe you found this when you first started flying, it almost looks like an aircraft carrier deck.
Yeah.
You're circling around, you're like, that little postage stamp, once you get down, once you get below the trees, once you're on the ground, these things tend to slow down pretty quick.
Yeah.
So in nice cool weather, we'll find out how things go in July and August when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, and it's certainly going to affect things. This has a cruise prop on it right now, so it doesn't climb out like I'd like it to. That's something I've got to work on. Once it gets up in the air, I'm cruising around 95 or so.
Gotcha.
I'd much rather not have the fast cruise and have the ability
Better
to climb above the trees quicker.
100%. So is that on the list for the future
Yes,
then?
yeah, hopefully within the next week or so, 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
Hopefully somebody may have one out there that I've got a few names I can call and say, hey,
Yeah.
you guys got a cruise prop or a climb prop I can use? I'll trade you or switch you, or I'll borrow it, and if I break it, I'll pay you a new one.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your front cockpit here. So you were telling me earlier, you can fit 2 passengers up there.
This is officially a 3-place airplane, and back in the 30s, people were a lot smaller than they are now.
Yeah.
So right now, you could probably put 2 teenagers in there. I don't know about 2 adults, but that's it. It really, they used it to train. There is a front stick that can be put in the cockpit. I don't have one in it now. Same with the Tiger Moth.
Yeah.
There's no stick in the front cockpit there either. But they're both trainers. They made, I believe, about 50 of them.
Okay.
This was the R models, RNF, QCF. Waco has so many designations for airplanes.
Yeah.
Took over from the 0 O models, the straight wing Wacos, the OX5, Waco 9s, Waco 10s. So this was the next step up.
So this is after Waco 10.
Waco 10, yeah.
Okay.
28, 27 Waco 10s, Waco 9s, and
It's
this
got
is 30.
kind of taper wing-esque gear on it.
Yes.
It a lot smaller, and the profile is very different. But
Yes,
it
very much
seems
so.
similar structure.
It's very spongy, I guess, like a moth. Like so far, I found out, and I know it'll change sooner or later, but I've made pretty good landings so
Yeah.
far. So it does have a lot of give. I find that in the Great Lakes, easy to land, a lot of give. Maybe in the Waco you flew fairly spongy gear,
Yeah.
very forgiving.
Yeah, those oleo struts on the YMF are definitely pretty forgiving.
Yeah, so that's always nice too. So that I'm looking forward to, is not making so many bad landings.
Yeah, well,
A little
definitely.
easier.
I'm sure that'll help. So is it preferring like wheelies or 3 points?
I've been 3-pointing. growing up here, everybody, if you wheeled it on, everybody'd give you a hard time. They
Really?
tease you. Oh yeah, even triplanes and stuff like that. I always three-pointed the triplane on if I could. If it was really windy, I would wheel something on, but for the most part, I try and three-point everything on that I fly.
Yeah.
And I think most of us do too. If you see Rob or Mark or Matt start wheeling on the standard, it's time to almost stop flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something I've got to get used to, because I'm so used to tail low wheelies from the Waco, because we flew in really high wind conditions.
Yeah.
And on a windy day here, you don't, like, y'all consider windy what I consider back home
nice
as like,
calm
oh,
day.
great, super calm. And here it's like any type of gust, even no matter how really big it is, it's kind of time to stop flying, it seems like.
Almost. I think the biggest problem here, and I don't know what you dealt with at home, was the trees. The approaches here, I assume, and I don't know, that you had much flatter, wide open approaches.
It was flat and wide open, no trees.
You don't have that here. So to get down over the trees, get down on the ground when you're fighting the wind isn't so hard. It isn't so easy. If you had long straight inch approaches like you did, I think it wouldn't be so bad. I mean, today's wind, it's blowing pretty good and it's right down the runway, but once again, coming over the trees will really bump you around at times, depending on the wind. You will get updrafts, downdrafts. It's not
especially in
east-west.
those crucial moments, right before,
and you don't want it to.
You don't want that.
You don't want that, and that will happen here. So that's
it's caught me off guard a couple times, especially in that standard, because that thing likes to
big
fly.
Big old boat. You know, it really. One airplane, I have no desire to fly even when it's nice.
I'm so surprised you've been here so long and you haven't gone up in it.
No, I have not. No? Never.
Well, so tell me a little bit too about your background. How long have you been here at the aerodrome?
Oh, I guess I started coming up here with my family probably in the late 60s.
Wow, so you've been in it a long time.
It's been a long time. My brother, my sister, my mom and dad, and we came up. We had an uncle. He taught down the road in Hyde Park at the school there, told us about the aerodrome, told my dad, and we started coming up, 67, 66, something like that. Nope, Dad had a Piper Cub that he took my brother and I up before he had his license, and taxied down to the end of the runway, and we were waiting down there, and he took us up flying. You're talking 70, probably 69, 70, something like that. So it's been a long time, and it's fun to fly all this stuff, and I tell everybody on this weekend, we'll be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, we might not leave till 6, and that whole time you might fly a half hour, unless you're a rides pilot. So the people are really what make this work. It's a good group of people. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, I'm happy
this
to be
is
here.
going to be a phenomenal summer. I think you're going to do great. I think it's just what the aerodrome needed. I hope it's what you need and
100%,
want. And
yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
we're going to have fun.
Me too, 100%. All right, you guys. Well, I was hoping that we would be able to get this airplane in the air today, but with what the wind's doing, like you were kind of explaining earlier, it may not happen.
It probably won't happen today, but once again, we do have time, and I will fly anytime you're ready to fly.
Good deal. Well, we'll try to get it on camera.
Yes,
so
definitely.
if we can get it on camera, we will. Otherwise, if this episode comes out without you flying, that means we get to do it on another episode.
Do it on another episode.
So we'll do next time.
We have all the time in the world. We'll do fine.
All right, good deal.
Between my conversations with Mark and my conversations with Dave, I come to understand that the windsock isn't always accurate, and sometimes the best way to tell if a bumpy, gusty day with a lot of sink might be present is to look at the trees. Our friend Rob arrived shortly after we finished our interview, so we sat back and watched him go fly the Stearman and decided if we'd take our airplanes up.
2, and it's locked.
Thank you. Clear.
Well, Dave, what do you think?
It still looks a little breezy from down here,
Looks a little breezy. He had a great takeoff. It looks like he had some aileron in there.
He had some aileron in there.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And the big thing is when he comes through the notch in the trees to the south there, that's what it'll tell us a lot.
Yeah.
Is how much he's working.
All right, well, we just talked to Rob, and
He said it was a little choppy up there.
and too much for the
so-
standard,
too much for the
especially since
standard,
I'm still
so
getting used to it.
You're still
so.
getting used to yours, I'm still getting used to mine. I
Yeah.
think we'll stay here on the ground, and like we were talking earlier, better
Yep.
to be down here wishing we were up there than up there wishing we were down here.
True words.
I'm happy he's standing here next to you watching.
Well, it just sucks watching him fly, having all the
it
fun,
does,
but it's
doesn't
all
it?
right. There's
He's
more
not
for
having
next
as much
time.
fun as we think. There he goes behind us.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Flying Doodles. I know technically it was an episode of a different show, but it's just for you guys. So you get to see it here for free on Flying Doodles, kind of just give you a taste of the show and all its glory and what it will be like. The second episode, by the way, is already out, or it should be very soon. And you'll get to see it. So yeah, any comments, concerns?
Just a unique place.
Yeah, this place is
Very-
so cool. And I'm really excited too to show you guys some other airplanes that I might not get to cover on that show, but that we'll do exclusively for you guys, just to give you a taste. This is what's behind us here in the hangar. So, I mean, it's just like Candyland here. It's pretty cool. So, lots of content, lots of things to see, especially if you like biplanes and tail draggers and World War I stuff. So, all right, you guys. Well, we'll see you next time.